Welcome to Cord Cutting Today for June 3rd, 2019. This is the show where I give you a quick look at some of the biggest stories happening in the world of cord cutting right now and let you know my thoughts on them. If you want to learn more about these stories, come up with your own opinions in the show notes down below. I'll put a link to each story so you can read them for yourself. Come up with your own opinions. If you're new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. It really does help us as it lets YouTube know you enjoy what we're doing here, and hopefully we can help you break free from the high cost cable TV with reviews, tips, tricks, and daily cord cutting news. So let's dive into it. First deal of the day, Starz has confirmed to Cord Cutters News there's only a couple weeks left that the Starz $5 a month deal for the first 3 months will come to an end this month. So if you're watching this and you've been thinking about getting the Starz deal to binge watch a bunch of Starz content, right now you can get the first 3 months of Starz for $5 each. Link to it in the show notes down below. The next story up of the day, Apple is reportedly going to drop iTunes. Now, this doesn't mean the functionality of iTunes is going to go away. It's been reported by Bloomberg and seemingly confirmed when Apple wiped its iTunes social media over the weekend that Apple will be replacing iTunes with a bunch of different apps, like a music app, a TV app, I would assume like a backup app for your phones on there, and more. So basically all the functions of iTunes and all the music and TV shows you paid for will be spread out across multiple apps. This is reportedly going to happen later today at WWDC, their big developer conference with a keynote. We'll have live coverage over at cordcuttersnews.com with a live blog of all the cord cutting related news that's happening at that time. Unfortunately, we're recording before then, so we can't confirm it, but it does sound very likely. The sources on this are very good. Bloomberg and others with a good track record are saying that this is going to happen, and then Apple wiping their social media points to that becoming more likely. My question to you is, would you be sad to see iTunes go away? It's been criticized recently becoming extremely bloated. So would you be upset to see it replaced with standalone apps, a podcast app, a TV app, and more? Assuming you would still keep all your content, all your music, all your TV shows, etc. will still be there, but you'll now find it in different apps as opposed to one big, massive conglomerate app with everything crammed into it. I think this is happening mostly because of the Apple TV Plus on the way. Apple wanted a TV service app, and it didn't make sense to try to cram their Apple TV Plus into iTunes on Mac. It makes better sense for them to break it out into different apps. So I think that's a big part of this, what's happening here. And honestly, the iTunes app is kind of dated. Hasn't quite got the upgrade and the love I think that people expect from Apple in 2019, the standard for it. I'd love to know though, what do you think? Are you sad to see iTunes go? Definitely remember my first iPod, getting it and using it for and again iTunes for that. Now the big question here is Windows. Now I'm a Windows person mostly. I do have some Mac products, and with that, will the iTunes on Windows go away at the same time as it does on Mac? We'll have to wait and see. But that's just one of the big things we're expecting from Apple today at WWDC, which will be happening at 10 a.m. Pacific. And so if you're watching this, make sure to follow cordcuttersnews.com later today for live updates. Of course, tomorrow I'll give you all my thoughts on it. But we are expecting a new Apple TV iOS update, or TV OS, 13 update, which will give us more details on everything happening with the Apple TV. Not expecting a lot of Apple TV news, probably some minor updates, some software changes. Do not expect a new Apple TV now. I would expect that in the fall. Apple traditionally releases new products like an Apple TV in the fall for the Christmas buying season. I do expect we're coming up due for a new Apple TV though. There will also be a Mac OS update, an iOS update, a watchOS update, amongst other changes. So what am I expecting cord cutting related from Apple today? I would expect maybe some more news about the Apple TV app, maybe some more providers jumping on. If anything, I think that's the most likely option there, that Apple will announce that new services will be available to subscribe to through the Apple TV app. Maybe a tiny bit more information on the Apple TV Plus streaming service, but we're still not expecting that until the fall. So I would find it highly unlikely that we hear a lot. we still don't know a lot about the new Apple TV streaming service. We know that some of the partnerships that they'll have with third-party or with creators like Steven Spielberg and Oprah on it, but we don't know much about like third-party content. Maybe we'll hear that a third-party movie studio has partnered with Apple to open up their back catalog of movies and TV shows on it. With Disney Plus and NBC and Viacom all releasing either paid version like Apple at $6.99 or free stuff like Viacom getting into Pluto TV, it has left Apple in kind of a tough spot. Apple's probably not going to be able to charge what they wanted to charge for their catalog. When you're comparing to Disney Plus, is massive. It's a massive catalog for $6.99. It's going to struggle there with Netflix, not being nearly expensive. Hulu going down a price of $5.99. It does leave Disney a bit of a problem if all they have is their original content. We're only going to talk about a handful of original shows at release, according to reports, with more rolling out over the next year. So I would expect Apple, according to reports, has been busy getting partnerships. I would expect if we really get any news about the Apple TV service, it would be third-party companies partnering with Apple to bring their back catalog to Apple. We'll wait and see. The problem Apple has, though, is Disney probably won't do it because they want you to get Disney Plus. NBC is launching an ad-supported service next year, and they also have their deal with Hulu. Why would NBC take their content off Hulu, which they just agreed not to do, and bring it to Disney? Viacom, maybe. There's a good argument for Viacom. They have their ad-supported service, but maybe they'll work with Disney for a free one. Or for a paid one with ad-free, I should say, and more. So I think Disney is in a tough spot, Apple's in a tough spot with Disney competing there and others. So I'll be very interested to see what they do. If there's any cord-cutting news, I would expect it to be that. But I am very curious about the Apple TV OS 13, what that means for cord cutters, and what kind of cool features will come to the Apple TV. Leave me a comment. Is there anything you'd like to see Apple change about the Apple TV? New remote, I know a lot of people have brought that up, but this is for the software. So maybe some cool new features, maybe a change or a tweak to the user interface. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you on what you think Apple should do with the Apple TV, with the expectation that the new Apple TV probably come out later this year. Next up, Google had a massive outage yesterday, and you may have noticed that you may have seen YouTube or YouTube TV down. Google's cloud services were down, which took down things like Google Analytics and even Gmail for some people, but not everybody. And then I wanted to talk about this real quick because yesterday I got all those emails and comments. Luke, you reported that YouTube was down, but it wasn't for me. You're releasing fake news. And this is always the tough thing. And one of the things you need to remember, and Google, as we learn more about, we updated the story. There's 3 different updates, 2 of them with official statements from Google about the outage. So it definitely happened because you can see on Google's social media, they were talking about it all day yesterday. But it happened on the East Coast, which seemed to most of the eastern United States, I would say from like Texas over. I even had YouTube TV out here in Texas, was out. And that's because YouTube has different servers in different spots. Google has it all over the place. And it seems to have been an issue in the East Coast that created a domino effect, knocking out all their servers. They say it was a capacity issue that they got for some reason. One particular server got overwhelmed. It didn't properly, I guess, handle it and didn't transition content to other places, and it went down. These things happen. It's kind of one of those growths. Google says they're going to build up the redundancy to make sure this never happens again. It's an oversimplification. I know there's going to be tech people saying it's a lot more complicated than that. Fully understand, but just a simple explanation here from what we've learned. But that means that people on the East Coast could have lost it, but people on the West Coast may have kept it. The other thing that happened here was if you were in a stream and didn't exit it, you were able to keep streaming. The problem happened when you wanted to go back to the menu and go back into a stream. It prevented you. It's because the servers that maintain the guide data is different than the servers that stream the content to you. So whenever you hear about outages or issues, always remember it can be local. Just like a cable network, it can go out in your neighborhood, but a few neighborhoods over, perfectly fine, because the hardware is different. So just keep in mind, whenever you hear about outages or issues, and you're like, I didn't have these issues, I don't know what these people are talking about, that there's a lot of redundancy in these systems. And when one goes out, it doesn't necessarily wipe out the entire country. It may just be this geographical area that's being serviced by a particular server. Netflix is very notorious about this. They spent a lot of time working with ISPs to put Netflix servers inside ISPs so that they can give the best streaming quality possible. That was a big thing when Netflix was new into streaming to offer better streaming quality, was installing the server inside Netflix's or inside ISP from Netflix. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of variants here. When you hear about an outage, it's not necessarily fake news just because you're not seeing it. It may just mean that in your area, you're not experiencing that outage. So my question to you is, were you out yesterday? How long were you out? I'd love to hear from you. Last story of the day, 17 local ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, and more locals are currently dark on DIRECTV now. Over the weekend, contract deals with a collection of different companies like GoCom Media, Howard Stirk Holdings, Robert Media, Second Generation of Iowa, and more. Their contracts with AT&T ended. So DirecTV, DirecTV Now, AT&T Uverse, these local stations went dark. It's kind of one of those things. Happened with cable. It just is the reality that these negotiations happen. From what I'm hearing within the industry, local stations want more money. The advertising dollars may not be what it was. They want more money. AT&Ts and others are saying, that's great that you want more money, but your viewership's down. Our subscriber base is down. Why should we pay you more? So leave me a comment. Let me know if you have seen this outage, and what do you think of this battle? Do you think that the locals are asking for too much, or do you think that AT&T is being too strict on their negotiation stance? There has been a lot of back and forth on this recently, with AT&T having issues with Viacom, having issues with A&E Networks, but ultimately working both out. This time with these locals, they ended up going dark. So leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of this. I'd love to hear from it. Don't forget, again, we'll be live all day over at CoreCarsNews.com with breaking news from the Apple event. And we'll be back tomorrow with all my thoughts on it. So hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. And check back tomorrow for more cord cutting news, tips, tricks, and how-tos. Thanks, everybody.